Thank you, Honorable Shivambu. The Honorable the Minister of Trade and Industry. Thank you, Honorable
The House
members.
is adjourned.
Thank you. You may continue, Minister.
Mr. President, House Chairperson and honorable members, fellow South Africans.
Hey, House Chairperson, we're going to start collecting tuition fees for this free education we're giving you. Yeah. 1,500 is the entrance cost now.
Can you please sit down?
We can't keep educating you
Thank
every
you,
day.
Honorable Member.
Entrance
Can
fee.
you please sit down? Thank you. You may continue, Minister.
In the SONA address last week, President Ramaphosa set out the goal to revitalize the economy with priority sectors and a reimagined industrial strategy. Our debate today takes place in the context of a tough domestic economic environment, an increasingly uncertain and a fragile global growth, which places responsibility on us to do more to change our performance and our outcomes. The official jobs survey, honourable members, that was released today show a modest quarterly rise of 22,000 jobs in the formal sector. Yet the pace and scale of job creation must be stepped up significantly. Honourable members, the economic revitalisation of South Africa will take energy, dedication and months of hard work. It will need the efforts of all of us, members of parliament, government officials, managers, investors, workers and learners. If we work together and we share the outcomes fairly, we can grow the wealth of the nation, reduce inequalities and poverty, and above all, provide more and better jobs for our people. Industrial strategy is the centerpiece of our economic recovery. It will be evidence-led with greater prioritization. Implementation will be more disciplined, but also increasingly responsive and collaborative. Crucially, industrial policy will no longer be the focus of one department only, but be the common focus across government. Mr. President, it has been said that powerful dreams inspire powerful action. In my remarks today, I wish to share with the House and fellow South Africans some specific actions and plans to turn the vision of SONA into a reality. Let me start with what we will do differently. First, we will learn from our successes and build on them. A leading example is the auto industry. It's now our major export industry in manufacturing, employing 110,000 workers, South African workers. It is a large and industrially sophisticated sector, producing 3 million cars and bakkies in the last 5 years alone. It has attracted massive investments from around the world and a local component sector. The success of the auto industry provides learnings about policy coherence, policy certainty, responsive governance, and the value of a strong partnership between business, labour and government. Second, we'll focus on implementation. The reorganization of government is to ensure we have a capable state, able and willing to do what it says it will do, to focus on practical actions, break policy paralysis, and coordinate across the state to ensure a good fit between incentives and outcomes such as jobs and youth opportunities. Third, we will speed up decision-making and inject a sense of urgency in the work of government. Kauleza, ukulumenti kauleza, putuma, ons moet wikkel, hat lisa. Finally, we will partner closely with key economic sectors. The role of industrial policy is to unleash private investment and energize the state to boost economic inclusion. It's an essential part of building investor confidence and the platform for job creation. The President spoke on Thursday night of industry master plans. What is different is that they will be in the form of sector social pacts rather than simply government decrees. Honourable members, the executive hit the road running in the past 4 weeks to implement the electoral mandate and the National Development Plan. On Friday, the day after SONA, 93 agreements were signed between South African suppliers and Chinese companies to buy local products for export to China with a contract value calculated at 27 billion rand, which will strengthen growth and jobs here in South Africa. To promote opportunities for African economic integration, 2 weeks ago, Deputy Minister Majola participated in the conclusion of trade agreements between SACU and the East Africa community. These agreements lay the basis for increased intra-African trade and cement the continent's position as the next growth frontier. At the Africa Big 7 Export Promotion Exhibition, Deputy Minister Gina highlighted the strengths of South African food exporters. 2 weeks ago, Minister Ndabeni Abrams and I agreed in Japan with our G20 counterparts on ways to unlock opportunities in the digital economy. We also developed approaches to maintain exports in the face of growing global trade tensions. To ensure South African jobs and trade are protected whatever happens with Brexit, I am engaging with my UK counterpart about accelerating work on a bilateral trade agreement, working closely with SACU partners, and we will prioritize this. Illegal imports of goods, honourable members, through our ports remain a significant challenge, damaging tens of thousands of South African jobs. In the past week, as a start, we engaged with both the new Commission of SARS and the Ministry of Commerce of China to seek urgent and joint action to address this. Now, what these examples do, they underscore our commitment to practical and decisive actions to address blockages to growth. On Thursday, President Ramaphosa laid out a vision of an energized economy. To implement it, we're setting clear timeframes and meeting with investors and labor to consider concrete actions to grow industrial output and jobs, building on the public-private growth initiatives. And Honourable Shivambu, it's not Van Zyl Slabbert, but Toyota's Dr. Johan van Zyl. To capitalize on the 71 billion rand surge in foreign direct investment last year into South Africa, we're engaging domestic and foreign investors to strengthen the enabling environment for investment in the productive sectors, and with the finance industry to unlock the 100 billion rand industrial finance commitment made at last year's Job Summit. I should make the point that China used FDI very strategically to build the industrial capability and technology while boosting domestic savings. Honourable members, let me share a few examples of significant new investments. Next month in July, 2 new investments will be launched. 135 million high voltage cable manufacturing plant expansion in Port Elizabeth. The opening of a new 50 million rand composite factory in Germiston. In August, the Toyota Hi-Ace Sesfikile minibus taxi plant expansion in Durban will be launched with nearly R500 million worth of investment. In September, we'll see Procter & Gamble launch its 300 million rand investment producing Pampers, nappies and women's hygiene products. By October, Best Value Foods, a black-owned fresh fruit and veg operation, will open a 31 million rand operation in Midrand. In November, we'll host the South African Investment Conference, and in the same month showcase South African products at the Shanghai Import and Export Expo. Mr. President, in the steel industry, within the next 100 days, we will launch a support program for new plant and equipment in metal fabrication. We will invest and stakeholders on the long-term development of foundries and steel mini mills, including measures to enable the local beneficiation of scrap metal. To promote local fashion and the South African clothing and footwear industry, within 50 days, we will release a draft master plan for the industry. And within 100 days, we'll have substantial consultation to build consensus on a sector social pact. In the chemicals value chain, we're mobilizing South African companies to supply 8 billion rands worth of goods and services as part of the Golfinho gas project in Mozambique, partly underwritten by our Export Credit Insurance Corporation. In plastics, we'll partner with domestic manufacturers to identify opportunities for import replacement. The new Auto Master Plan aims by 2035 to increase local content from 39% to 60%, double the annual car production, expand employment to 220,000 people, and create a R2.5 billion fund to support black industrialists in the sector. Agriculture and agro-processing provide enormous opportunities for growth. With the world's second biggest citrus exporter, beef exports are rising. Within the next 50 days, we'll convene agro-value chains with Minister Didiza to identify impediments to greater output and to enable black farmers and small-scale farming to expand. We're engaging the sugar industry to address its challenges and will encourage the trade authorities to finalize the investigation into unfair poultry trade practices within the next 60 days. We'll defend our poultry industry. It's a significant job creator. The digital economy is vital, honourable members, to a rejuvenated economy. To ensure that data prices fall, working with the Minister of Communication, will consider and implement the recommendations by the Competition Market Inquiry into data services. And we anticipate there will be negotiation with large cell phone companies in the next 5 months to bring data prices down. Similar interventions will take place to support mining, the creative sectors, and tourism. We'll roll out changes to the Competition Act to build an inclusive economy in which young people can participate. The first set of changes expected in the next 100 days will enhance the authorities' power to address harmful monopolies, excessive and predatory pricing, and to increase penalties for contravention of the Act. It also will enable, though, more collaboration between firms where this can lead to greater economic output and jobs. For too long, retail malls have shut out young entrepreneurs and small businesses. We'll consider the recommendations of the Competition Market Inquiry to provide space to small retailers and to facilitate buyer groups for spaza shops to source more affordability. Government has to date supported some 400 black industrialists through the IDC and the DTI programs. Over the next 5 years, we'll support an additional 400 black industrialist projects with financial support of some 40 billion rand. And to deepen localization, we'll finalize commitments with state-owned companies to buy from South African producers. Part of what we'll do also is to cooperate with retailers to stock and actively promote more goods made by South African workers. We need to respond, honourable members, proactively to the threat of a global trade war and the slowdown in growth in most of our major trading partners. Building on the African continental free trade area and making our trade promotions more effective and strategic are therefore quite critical. We'll work with other nations to sustain the rules-based trade order while maintaining the policy space required for industrialization. Honourable members, a pillar of our industrial policy is the development of new investment clusters through special economic zones, revitalization of industrial parks, and business and digital hubs. In the next 3 months, we'll set up the legal entity for the Bojanala Platinum Valley SEZ in Northwest, which already has an investment pipeline in place. Within 12 months, we'll do the same in the Northern Cape SEZ in Uppington and the Automotive SEZ in Tshwane. Ford South Africa has exciting plans to re-energize the Silverton area of Gauteng through this SEZ. And in 3 months, we'll commence support for infrastructure upgrades in some 15 local industrial parks, including Fort Jackson, Butterworth, Mossel Bay, Orlando West, El Dorado, Uppington, and Toyando. Our focus now is on immediate actions. However, to build a long-term platform for inclusive growth over the next 5 years, we'll consider measures to promote worker participation in company boards and in ownership schemes, the use of a sovereign wealth fund to underpin investment in strategic and priority sectors, and the rollout of the infrastructure fund to enable energy, water, transport, and digital platforms to promote inclusive growth, economic inclusion more generally, and social cohesion. Partnership is critical, and therefore we make a strong call on large corporations to avoid the easy resort sometimes to retrenchments, as we've seen in a number of sectors and most recently with MultiChoice. And we need that while we have the space to rebuild the economy. Honourable members, I can think of no better words to conclude than a statement made in June 1965 by that great African patriot, Kwame Nkrumah, who said, "The task ahead is great indeed, and heavy is the responsibility, and yet it is a noble and glorious challenge, which calls for the courage to dream, the courage to believe, the courage to dare, the courage to do, the courage to envisage, the courage to fight, the courage to work, the courage to achieve the highest excellencies and the fullest greatness of man. Dare we ask for more in life." I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable the Minister of Trade and Industry.